the untouchable name. By the time the final headliner walked in, the air backstage felt heavier. Conversations had shifted into hushed tones. Glances darted toward the door. This was no ordinary musician. This was the one everyone worshipped, the one critics called a genius among mortals. Gary had admired this man once, too. His early work had been raw, powerful, unpredictable, like lightning bottled up and poured into an amplifier. But over the years, Gary had noticed something change. The songs became polished, safe, built for stadiums rather than for truth. The legend walked over, flanked by managers and hangers-on. He was all charm, greeting Gary with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Gary Moore, the man who makes a guitar cry," he said warmly. "Always been a fan." Gary returned the handshake, but his words didn't match the pleasantries. "You used to make it scream," Gary said quietly. "Now it just talks about the weather." The room froze. Even the distant thump of bass from the stage outside seemed to vanish. The legend laughed awkwardly, assuming it was a joke. "You think I've gone soft?" Gary didn't blink. "I think you stopped taking risks. I think you stopped saying what you really feel, and I think you know it." It wasn't loud. It wasn't theatrical. But it hit harder than any insult could. The legend's smile faltered, and for a moment the mask slipped. There was a flicker of something. Guilt? Defensiveness? Maybe both. One of the managers stepped in, trying to change the subject, but Gary kept going. "People don't remember the perfect songs. They remember the dangerous ones, the ones that feel like they could fall apart any second. That's what made you great. That's what you've lost." Somewhere in the corner, a young guitarist Gary had spoken to earlier was hanging on every word. Gary could see it in his eyes. This wasn't just about one icon. It was a lesson for everyone in the room. The legend eventually clapped Gary on the shoulder, muttered something about different eras, different approaches, and moved on. But Gary knew he'd planted a seed. Whether it grew into something good or just festered as resentment didn't matter, the truth had been spoken. And that truth would ripple far beyond that room. Within days, whispers about Gary Moore calling out a legend would circle the industry, but Gary wasn't done yet. Because the next conversation he had that night wouldn't just challenge another musician, it would change Gary himself in a way he never expected.